Hey there guys, welcome to the Gaming Nights channel. It's 2020 and start of the year, we do our top 5 of the year. I'm Jason Froud.
Martin, how you doing?
I said top 5 of the year, top 5 of last year.
Yep,
Yeah,
2019.
That's right.
And it's new to us, as always, rather than came out, because we play a lot of new to us games, and they're not just games that have come out that year. Obviously, we do dabble in some of the newer stuff, but a lot of things, there's so many games coming out a year. Well, I was talking to a friend, thousands of games come out every year. It's impossible to keep up. So, you know, when you play a great game, why not just sing about it, regardless of where it came out 2, 5, 10 years ago, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and also, as all these lists have to say beforehand, this is our favourite games of the year. So I'm going to do 5, Mart's going to do 5. Obviously, it might differ from your 5 or 10, 15.
Strongly suspect it will.
Yeah, and it'll differ probably between the two of us.
Again, yeah.
And we play a lot of games together as well. All right, have you got anything to mention about the year?
Well, I mean, I played 118 games for the first time this year. I found the list quite hard to do this year, actually, because I think in terms of extremes, it was actually quite difficult. Like, I didn't play anything that I thought, well, there was very few, should we say, that I thought were absolutely horrible. And there were very few that I thought were absolutely amazing, but there was a lot of good games, you know, not
solid 7.
Yeah, absolutely that, yeah. So I think I found it a little bit more difficult, but I mean, I think the year in general was fine. I mean, I could probably say that year on year, their games are getting better and better each time. I mean, a game from 10 years ago that was great then is probably now only okay by today's standards, and it's just going like that year on year now, and probably will continue. But who knows?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's been a really odd year in terms of what game. I've played over 500 games this year. Oh, when we're talking this year, we're talking 2019. I played over 500 games. I don't know how many individual games, but there was a lot of games that were sort of games that are sort of middle of the road. You know, they're decent games, but they wouldn't necessarily make a top 10. But then there was also some really good games that I played, especially towards the end of the year, where I was trying to focus on getting some of my games played that I haven't played in a while, or that I bought specifically to play and then never got it to the table. You know, and those were really ones that stood out for me more.
I had one very specifically that would have 100% made this list had I played it for the first time in 2019, but I didn't. I played it quite a long time ago, and it was my first game, so perhaps didn't gel with me quite as well, but I've played it a few more times 2019, and I absolutely loved it, which was Clans of Caledonia.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely loved that game, and I want to play it more. I'm a big fan of the Terra Mystica type style, and that is very similar to that. And so that is one of those where it came out a few years ago, but I hadn't appreciated it, I think, until last year.
It's interesting because I played that for the first time this year, and I think I might go down the same route. You know, like you play it for the first time and you think it's good.
There's a quite. It's not super complicated, but there's so much going on that you don't feel like you can kind of work on a strategy until the point you're kind of like 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the game. You're like, okay, everything's gelling now, and I get everything, but now it's too late to do anything about it.
I think Terra Mystica had the same feel as well. First time we played that, it was like, wow, there's a lot going on here.
Just not sure.
Yeah. I actually have a few games that I played this year which would have definitely made my top 5, top 10, and I played a lot of them, like in terms of like, but they were Kickstarter previews and demo games that I was doing, because the way my career's gone over the last year, I've actually played a lot of good games, but they're not for sale, they're not available, so I didn't consider them for the list. But like for one, Time of Legends Destinies from Joan of Arc, from Lucky Duck Games, that would definitely have made my list, because that is excellent. I absolutely loved that. Kingdom Rush, another one. Merchant's Cove is another one. These are all previews that I did this year and demos that I've been doing throughout the year. They would have definitely made the list, because they are all of them are excellent games. But unfortunately, they're not available, so I didn't really consider it.
So will you put them on next year's if they're still...
I think so, yeah. So it's kind of a spoiler.
Potentially. Well, I mean, you never know if they're going to get bettered or not, do you? But, I mean, this is the thing. When you play, like, previews like that, you haven't played them for the first time that year then, even though now they're in kind of general release. So is it kind of cheating the rules? But who knows?
Yeah. I suppose we should define the rules more.
Well, perhaps, yeah. I mean, you did mention this year as well, other things that happened this year, for both of us, has been a fairly big one in terms of work as well. So Jason has been taken on by Lucky Duck as their UK events manager, and I myself have been taken on as a sales manager for Long Pack Games. So now we are both properly working in the industry as well. So, you know, we play games for fun and it's our hobby, but now also we've got a vested, both of us now have a vested interest in it as well. So it's been a huge coup for both of us this year, and long may that continue. Hopefully it will.
And of course, from the other side of my business is the painting side of things. I've been doing a lot more work for companies this year as well.
Yeah. Your clientele has definitely changed from commissions from individuals to companies now working on Kickstarters and you know, their preview pages and things like that.
So that's really changed a lot of how the dynamics of my year has gone. But overall, I've still got a lot of games to the table. I played a lot of games. I've been working on a lot of things as well. But should we just get straight to it?
Indeed, yeah.
Otherwise, this will be another 2-hour video.
Yeah, probably best not to do that. Do you want to start with positives?
Yes. So do you want to start with your 5?
No, we'll go 5s and then we'll go down, I think. So, well, actually, what I'll do, I'll talk about my almost rans.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
For now. So I had, I made a short list, and the short list was probably nearly 30 anyway, so it wasn't that short. But I did actually do up to my top 10. So I'll quickly run through my 10 to 6, just so you can engage.
Give it a little pause in between each one, and I'll put a picture here of what they are.
Okay. We'll do that if you can work out. So my number 10 was Lowlands. I got that for Christmas last year. Big fan of like the Uwe Rosenberg sort of Agricola, Caverna, Le Havre, those kind of games, and this very much scratched the same itch. I thought it was just really cool, really interesting. I really like that one. Awkward Guess at 9. That's kind of, I was a big fan of Cluedo. Probably the only high street game that I really like. And this did a very similar thing in a much better, cleaner way. I thought that was really cool. 8 was Vindication, which again is kind of has a bit of a Terra Mystica vibe to it, to me, for some reason. It's a very thematic Euro. You're this scumbag or whatever that gets thrown overboard, and you wash up on this beach essentially, and you're just kind of exploring the land and trying to make amends for the bad things you've done. Really like that. 7 was War Chest. I'm not the biggest fan of 2-player games, but that one really gelled with me for some reason. Really liked it. The components are great, and it's just kind of a chess-ish type game where you're just like, it's a bag builder, so you're bringing out things from your bag, you're putting them on the board, or you're using them to activate other things you've got on the board, just trying to claim areas. And then my number 6, which I really ummed and ahed because this could have easily been in my top 5, was Jaws, which I just think's excellent. It's like it felt hugely thematic for me. It was loads of fun. Game of 2 parts, which I wasn't expecting when I first played it either. When you flip that board over and then you're on the orca fighting Jaws, he pops out of the water and everything. I just thought it was excellent, and that was my very nearly made it. And on another day, it may well have done. That was my 10 to 6.
That's a really good game. So, I mean, I've only played 10 minutes of Lowlands, which was the first 10 minutes, and then I had to go, which it looked pretty good at that point.
I like it.
Awkward Guess is great. Vindication is brilliant.
Yeah, you really like Vindication.
Jaws is excellent. That's one of my surprises of the year.
And you haven't played War Chest, and I think you'd like it as well.
Yeah, and I'm actually a big bag building fan as well. I got 2 games that I want to mention. I didn't do a 10 to 6. I
only did because I had real trouble sorting out, so I need to actually put this in some semblance of order. So I'm happy with the 5 I've picked. That's why I did that.
But I want to mention 2 games that I don't think would have made my top 10. So it's not 6 and 7. But it's 2 games that I thought I should mention because I thought they were uniquely experienced and I enjoyed them immensely throughout the year. But they have pros and cons to them. One is what I call the Ferengi game, which is, I think it's called Star Trek Galactic Enterprises.
I think that's right, yeah. A retheme of a fantasy version. I can't remember what that's called.
I'll put a picture over here. But that game is so group dependent and situational dependent. But when it works, oh my god, is it fun.
I like to call it an argument simulator because I 100% guarantee at some point in the game it will devolve into some kind of squabble argument or whatever. Like, I can't believe you just did that.
Yeah. But the whole game's mechanics is based on that.
You said expressly you weren't going to do that and you did it anyway.
Yeah. So good. It's such a funny game. I mean, you got to go into it with the mindset that you know you're going to be dicked over by your friends, and you might not have any friends at the end of the day.
What's worse about it is someone dicks you over, so you think, "Fuck, right, we'll just bottom out the price every time. We'll just creep in that low amount of money," and then you know that a few turns later, the other person across the table has made so much money that you have to just draw a line under what happened and go, "Look, we need to make this deal because we need some money, otherwise he's definitely going to win." And then the arsehole screws you over again. It's just so bad.
Yeah, I love that game. It's so funny. But it has very much the potential, if you play with the wrong group or just one person in the group,
Yeah.
it could bottom out completely. So that's why it didn't make my list of top games, but I would happily play that in the right environment because it's so
Unique
much fun.
experience is definitely right as well.
Yeah.
There's not many games like that.
And the other one I wanted to mention, which is more of a family game, is Zombie Kids. Again, I've got a copy here, but I'll put a picture here instead because I didn't fetch it out. Zombie Kids is a legacy game for kids, but it has just enough that you can play adults and keep adults entertained while you're playing with the kids.
And it's hard as well.
Yeah, and the games take 15 minutes, and you got loads of envelopes that you open. The kids love that. You got the kids' characters as the main protagonists or whatever, and you got the zombies. It's really simple mechanics, really good. I actually thought that was superbly done by.
Yeah, it was a really good, just a game that they just brought out. A really good, solid idea. I even like the fact you have to high five when you lock a gate.
Yeah.
Like in the rules. Woohoo! Yeah, we've done that because the kids love that as well.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, again, it's not going to make my top 10 of the year, but it was a unique experience that I really enjoyed with my family. I love legacy games, and this is a legacy game designed for kids. How
I'm
good is
surprised you
that?
didn't put a la carte on actually.
Yeah, like God, it's
Because
a
I mean, there's not many games like that either. Like, there with a little saucepan and like shaking condiments into your pan. That was quite amusing.
Yeah, that was really good. That was my bargain find of the year.
That really was a good bargain as well. Yeah.
All right, so those are my two unique mentions that I could think of. Shall we get to number 5?
Sure. Okay. So my number 5, and I will be surprised if it's not on your list as well. But we'll start with my number 5. Actually, he's been doing got a bit of a buzz this year. You said you like bag building. This is bag building, and a push your luck element as well. And if you don't get it from that, I'll be very surprised. The Quacks of Quedlinburg. I mean, what more is there to say, really? It is literally that. A bag builder, where you're putting good stuff in your bag, and you're drawing out, you're making this potion, you're the alchemists or doctors, I guess. You're making these potions, you have a big cauldron that you're putting the ingredients into, and if you draw too many of a certain type, the thing blows up and you bust, essentially. So it's a constant push your luck, drawing out, and having special abilities on the tokens as they come out of the bag, stuff like that. It's just really cool, and I've not had one person play it didn't like it. It's just huge amounts of fun. I think it's great.
Yeah,
Simple as that.
Really solid game. I mean, it's got some really interesting mechanics. The bag building has that really element of, oh my god, what am I going to pull out? And if you don't build your bag properly, you can end up.
It's interesting as well because you're limited to, you can only buy 2 tokens maximum a turn, and you have to have 2 different, or if you're going to buy 2, they have to be 2 different colours as well. But obviously the better tokens are the ones that move on or progress you further are more expensive. So it's like, do you go for like diluting your bag with small numbers but lots of them, which tends to be something you favour, isn't it? Or do you go for larger numbers where, I mean, there's an orange token which will move you on 6 spaces, which is huge, but it's really expensive as well. So do you go that route and maybe try and put really expensive ones that advance you quite significantly as well? Because obviously the less tokens you've got in your bag, the more chance you have of drawing them, but obviously you've got the more chance of drawing the things that are going to blow you up as well. So lots of stuff to think about, and there's huge variety. I've got the expansion in here as well. With that, the Herb Witches, and it's Herb, by the way, Americans, and all the different books you have, which essentially change the abilities on the tokens. There's masses of variety. I wouldn't be surprised if there's hundreds of thousands of combinations, if I'm honest.
I actually really like it as well. It didn't make my list.
No?
And I'll probably say why. There's 2 things in this game. This is a solid 7, probably 7.5, 8 out of 10 for me. And it means I really like it because I love bag building. I love push your luck. I love some of the, like you were saying about the books, so the combinations. I love that sort of, combination play.
Absolutely.
But there's 2 things that really bug me. And when I first played it, I loved it. I thought it was excellent. But the more I've played it, it's softened a little bit. And 2 reasons. One, I'm not a fan of almost like real-time games where everyone's doing something at the same time, so it feels like solo games.
Yeah, I get you. Because there isn't a lot of interaction between. I mean, the only token I think that kind of interacts with other people tends to be the black token, which is looking at your neighbours.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it is literally everyone's eyes down, and then you kind of look up once you finish going, who else has blown up, or who else has, how far have people got, and that's kind of I understand that completely.
So
there's a little bit my complaint with Chocolate Factory as well. It felt like you're playing your own game, and you barely had any kind of overlap with people, and so but. For some reason, I don't know why, it doesn't really bother me in this.
Well, yeah, because the mechanics in this one is the pressure luck element, which is focused on you rather. So that's what softens it.
I mean, I suppose you could, to increase engagement, do them individually, but obviously it would take
like the
4
last
times
turn.
as long.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, actually, I'll draw all of mine and you draw all of yours, kind of thing. But obviously, then you know what your benchmark is there, and so we'll lose potentially some things. But
And then the other thing, which is just a minor thing, and it's not a bit, is the rat tails. And I feel like I know why they put that in there, because obviously no one wants to get screwed out of a game.
Catch-up mechanic, isn't it? Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like it makes it a too light a game, because there's no real detriment to busting. Because if you bust, you're always just going to buy, because the points doesn't matter. You'll just get caught up with the tails.
Maybe.
I felt like, ironically, I lead a lot of the time in this game, and because I'm super lucky for some reason. And also my tactic of diluting the bag, I feel like works really well.
So you apparently you have some kind of psychometric powers where you can just go, no, that's white, I won't draw that.
Although I will say I've not played it since you've upgraded the tokens.
Okay, true, yeah, maybe. It'll be better.
But yeah, even with my minor quibbles, I still think this is a great game. Really good, and it just deserves all the plaudits it's been getting all year.
I think so as well, yeah. I mean, it's very accessible as well. There's not many people that would have trouble playing it.
Potion brewing is also a great theme, I think.
Yeah.
Because people, like, even if you're playing with someone who doesn't, you just go, you're making a potion. These are the crap you're throwing in here, and it's just really fun.
Yeah. And the rat tails do make sense in that regard. You're bulking up the potion.
And I totally get the reason it's there as well. And I don't think it would be as fun or as, for lighter gamers if it wasn't there, because if you bust on the first turn and you get no reward, like no compensation, you're chasing uphill then.
The early turns though, you don't tend to score very big. It's that kind of mid-turn bit. When you get to sort of like halfway through the game, you start scoring quite a lot, and if you're then busting at that point, there's probably no coming back, and that's why the rat tails are there. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, from first and second turn, even if I bust, I don't care. I'm always going to buy 2 things as much as possible and just push my luck as far as I can. But the last 2 turns, I don't care about buying anymore. Then it's all about the points.
Yeah, except that last turn, the buying expenditure converts to points, so it does sort of make a difference, and that can be whether you win or lose. Those few points that you might have to spend there. But
the Witches thing is also interesting because that gives you some interesting options.
I like the Witches a lot. I think that's one of those that has increased, I guess, the accessibility of the game by not actually adding a huge amount of complexity to it. Just, you've got 3 new abilities, and everyone's got the same 3 abilities, and that's it. And you can use them whenever you want, whenever you feel it's going to be best for you, and they're always useful.
Yeah,
it's great idea.
Well, let's go to my number 5. My number 5, which you mentioned earlier, is Jaws.
And that was my number 6, so I mean, they could have easily...
this is obviously done by Ravensburger.
Yeah, Ravensburger, yeah.
Who's the designer, do we know?
I don't know, Does it say? No? This is... I think it's probably a Ravensburger thing. I always think you should put the designer's name on the box.
But I'll tell you what, I love one versus many games. I really do like that. I think it's not a dying mechanic, but I think it's an unfavourable mechanic these days.
It seems to be one of those that's not liked by much outside of us.
Yeah, and also because of technology now, the apps and stuff replace the one. So, like, for example, Fantasy Flight...
Yeah, but playing the one is often really cool.
Yeah, and this game does it brilliantly. You either play Jaws, or you play all the characters from the movie. Yeah. And it has 2 specific game modes. The one, which is where the shark is just running around eating people.
Which, to be fair, is the better part of the game, I think. It is definitely more fun. There's a bit more to think about.
Yeah.
As Jaws, you are a little bit worried about where to go, and have they worked out where I'm going, and then you're just kind of eating swimmers to gain more powers in the next round. It's a really cool idea.
That first part reminds me a lot of Spectre Ops and Fury of Dracula.
Yeah, it is hidden movement.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
You have a little pad, but it's only like about 10 locations or something to go to.
And that first part can be 10-15 minutes, or
it's not long at all.
Yeah, very quick. And then the second part is you flip the board over and you got the boat, and then you're having a one-on-one fight with everyone.
Yep.
And depending on how well you did in the previous round is how brutal you're going to be in the second round. it's so fun. It's really good. I really like it. I've played both sides. Jaws is really interesting because you feel like, man, I want to eat those suckers, and you feel bravado about like,
I've never seen Jaws win though, which is a concern of mine.
Margaret came close the other night.
I've seen Jaws come close repeatedly, to be honest, but never seen him win. And I wonder, regardless of how well they do on that first part, like I've seen, was it Margaret that went right up to the top and ate everyone, basically, and we flipped out. I mean, that was really bad for us. So we got hardly any cards, and she got a load of cards, and yet we still beat Jaws.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
She did a lot of damage to the boat. But
It's quite difficult to do damage to the people though, and doing in killing them 5 life each is a huge amount. The most I've ever done is 4 to one person and none to the others. So I mean, I reckon people could go down to maybe 3 health each, and it would still have been tricky. You know, I mean,
it
is a bloody shark. Get bitten by a shark, you're in a bad way.
Well, a shark is getting drilled with bullets and spears and machetes.
Although we did have one game where we actually killed Jaws by putting the gas canister in its mouth.
That was against me.
And then shot it. We even got to use the line, "Smile, you son of a bitch." Now that is awesome.
I was Jaws at that point.
Yes!
No, it's good fun. I definitely agree. And you know what the best thing about it is? It's not expensive.
No, not at all.
I think it's like 25
It's
bucks.
25 new. I bought it second hand because the weirdo didn't like it for 20. So well worth 20.
Well worth it, yeah. So much fun. It's if you're worried about the one versus many, like in terms of, because a lot of people don't like being the one because they feel the pressure of running the game and stuff. This is not like that. I don't think so. It's go as hard as you can to Jaws because
absolutely. And I think that a lot of people's perception of one versus many games stems from what you just said there, where they feel like they're running the game, whereas that's not my impression or experience of them at all. They're there trying to do their own thing, and the other people are there trying to generally stop you or do their own thing. And the one versus many games that we like, this Middle Earth Quest, things like that, they're all like that. I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing, and sooner or later we're going to meet somewhere in the middle, and you're going to have to try and stop me, or I'm going to have to try and stop you, because one of us is going to win.
I find it interesting. This year has been a real burst of asymmetrical games like Root and Merchant's Cove and those things, where everyone's doing their own thing, like in terms of mechanics and stuff, which is basically the same as one versus many.
A little bit, yeah. I get that.
One person's doing their own thing, and but I think games like, for
but
example,
the difference is everyone's the one, and everyone else is the many in those, because they're all against everybody else, kind of thing. I see what you mean, though.
Whereas I felt like Imperial Assault was an example to me of where the one is kind of running the game. I never felt the one was doing its own thing. It was facilitating the Euros to have fun.
Yeah, I think you're right. More like a GM role.
Yeah.
And that's not what the one should be, in my opinion.
No.
But hey, I think in this game, Jaws, it's an example of it done right, personally.
Yeah, so it's great. Go look for a copy.
Definitely. Right.
What's your number 4?
My number 4. So, I can't remember, because I didn't actually look at my last year's lists. I can't remember what was on my last year, or possibly in the year before. But there was...
If you want to have a look, I've got a link up here.
I can check in a second if you like. I still got them, but I'm a big fan of a game that came out. I don't know. It might have been 2 years ago. I can't remember. Called Great Western Trail. I think it's a superb game. And that was the game that put Alexander Pfister on my radar. Although I think I had played games of his before, but that one was the one that really made me sit up and take notice. And I tried a few others here. Some I thought were okay, some I thought were pretty good. But one came out fairly recently, actually. Came out at Essen, that I played at a convention recently. And it was one of those that kind of stayed with me, and I thought about it quite a lot for the next few days afterwards. To the point where I'm like, right, I definitely want to buy this. I thought it was amazing. And I have since bought it and played it since. And that is...
It's made a lot of people's top 10 lists this year.
Maracaibo. I have absolutely no idea what the name means or where it's derived from or anything like that, but it's another typical Pfister game. Lots going on. You've got the kind of the movement patterns-ish of Great Western Trail, but unlike Great Western Trail, where you're just constantly doing laps, when someone gets to the end, that kind of signifies like an end turn thing, and so generally everyone gets another go. And that's it. Everything kind of clears up and wipes. So you can, if you want, accelerate the game as well. You can move like 1 to 7 spaces. If you can just jump forward and end the round really quickly. But obviously, while you're doing that, everyone else is taking small steps and benefiting along the way. But there's so many card combinations in there. There's tracks all over the bloody place that you can raise. You've got you can influence. There's 3 different nations: France, England, Spain. That you can influence. They're these. You've got like an exploration track down the bottom, which you can get abilities from as well. And you're moving like clockwise around this thing. And you're building up your tableau as well. You've got your ship, where much like your Great Western Trail, you have your like player board where you remove stuff to put on the board, and as you do that, it unlocks powers on the board. And they've got loads of different abilities on them as well. So you think, well, I might actually unlock this ability because that's the kind of route I want to go down. There's just so much going on, and it's just a really cool Euro that's really gelled with me a lot. And I think it's great, and it's made my number 4.
I've not played it.
Nope, but you should, I think.
I think I'd like
as
it.
a comparison.
Yeah, because for one, I love Great Western Trail. I mean, I absolutely love Great Western Trail. It's a fantastic game. I also like Oh My Goods, and and I was really looking forward to trying. I think it's called Expedition to Newdale, which was his other new game he released at Essen.
But that's basically Oh My Goods.
Yeah, but on a bigger
but
scale.
Also the
flip book thing.
No, I was thinking of the ship one. God, Port Royale.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's very much not a typical Fister game, but we actually had quite a lot of fun with that as well. So I mean, as I say, Fister is definitely on our radar, and Blackout New York as well is another one that.
Blackout Hong Kong, you mean?
Hong Kong, sorry, yeah, not New York sequel. Hong Kong, thank you.
Spoilers.
We know nothing. Is one that I'd like to try because it sounds appealing. I was slightly put off by the component issues in that one, to be honest, or the aesthetic of it. Apparently, the graphic design is a bit lacking as well. But the idea behind it actually really appeals to me.
I actually feel if I played this last year or recently, I think this might have made the list because, like I said, I love Great Western Trail, and Fister is doing some great work. I like heavy Euros, so
it is fairly heavy. That would be my only major complaint with it, in that it was taught to me, thank God. So when I read the rules, it was just kind of jogging my memory more than anything else. But I mean, there is a lot to explain, and when I explained it to our group, I felt it actually didn't seem as complicated as I thought it was when I was explaining it. But I mean, it's conceivable that I missed things out, that kind of thing. But I did feel like I'd only spoke for about 15-20 minutes. It's like, that's it, you know? Is that really what I need to convey? It feels quite heavy, though, when you're playing it. There's so many things going on. Like, you look at a card, and again, it's got typical multi-use kind of cards in there. There's so much information on the cards. Even that will blow your mind. But, yeah, I think it's great. Really like it.
one for me to get to the table sometime this year.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, from a heavier game to a lighter game, it's my number 4. My number 4 is Paranormal Detectives from Lucky Duck Games. The designers are these guys right here.
I think he gets a bonus if he mentions this.
I mean, I'm not going to mention it. I'm just going to screw it up. But this game is a lot of fun. It's basically another one versus mini game. Although this is not versus, this is one.
Isn't it more like your
You're the ghost, and everyone else is the detectives, but they're trying to individually solve the case.
Okay.
So, but you win with the detective that wins if you're the ghost.
Okay.
It's kind of got a Mysterium vibe.
Mysterium, that's the word.
Where in terms of where obviously one person's a ghost and he can only communicate with the detectives in a certain particular way. I found Mysterium quite abstract. It looked like someone took Dixit and then made...
White?
And it was very group dependent as well, because if you can't link minds with the person that's the ghost, you have no friggin' idea what's going on.
But the problem with that is, and I get why they did it, the pictures were so abstract that, and we're supposed to, I suppose, signify like your dreamlike states or that kind of thing. But you're looking at this picture going, I need to convey, you know, a hacksaw with this picture one of these pictures here, which none of them have any relevance to that at all. How on earth do I do that? And you're like, oh, hang on, maybe I'll look at that table there. It's the same colour as that hacksaw. Yeah. Hopefully he'll pick up on that, and that's it. I mean, it's just so obscure. If they pick up on these clues, I mean, they're doing well.
And then, of course, as the ghost, you can't speak or do nothing.
No.
So you give them a clue, and then for a half an hour, you go make the tea, you go watch a game of football or something.
Yeah. While you're dying inside, as they're going, it's definitely this. You're like, oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah. Whereas this one is a lot more interactive. As the ghost player, you have a certain way of communicating with people. They play a card, and depending on the card they play, so it could be tarot cards, it could be Ouija board, it could be ghost speak, it could be any of these.
There's one where you draw on someone's back.
Yeah, yeah. And there's one where you hold their hand and you draw with a quill pen.
That is an awesome cover as well. Really like that picture.
That's so much fun. We played it a couple of times one night here with some friends. My kids were milling around the house playing on the Xbox and stuff, and they immediately came over and went, "Can we play in the next game?"
You should bring it with you tonight.
Oh yeah, well, it's such a lot of fun. And the game is. It seems like when you've played Mysterium and Dixit and those type of things, you feel like I really need to think hard here. But then you could just ask directly, who killed you? Yeah, that sort of thing, and then go, yeah, write it down on the quill pen or something like that, and then they'll do this crazy little drawing, and then you look at that and you go, the hell does that mean? So funny.
So is it like a Cluedo-ish? You're trying to work out who killed the ghost?
There's 5 aspects. You need to know who did it, why they did it, where they did it, how they did it, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And you can ask. The only question you can't ask is yes or no answers.
Okay.
So you can't just go, "Did you die with a knife?" And then you can't go, "Yeah," that sort of thing. But it's a lot of fun. I definitely highly recommend it. If you're into having a social evening where you just want to have a little laugh, you can play up to 6 players, and it's just a good time. You can also rotate, like one person plays the ghost, and then next round someone else plays the ghost, and you just have a good time laughing about it. That's really good. I highly recommend this.
And Lucky Duck have been knocking it out of the park, I think, in a lot of aspects. I mean, they pretty much seemingly came out of nowhere with Chronicles of Crime. I think before that it was one of those that they'd had a few different things that people might have heard of, but basically Chronicles of Crime, and then since then it's just been like stratospheric.
I mean, Vikings Go Wild was their first one, and that did okay. But then they came out with a very few, shall we to put it mildly, very average games, which was Zombies Tsunami and Fruit Ninja.
But I mean, with due respect to Vikings Go Wild, it was just a deck builder. There was nothing that stand out about it. I mean, if I asked you which company had done, I don't know, Thunderstone, would you know?
AG.
It might be. I don't know. I'm not sure. It might be AEG. I can't remember. But that's sort of my point. Whereas now, Lucky Duck, I feel like Chronicles of Crime is like it's their flagship product.
Yeah. Well, and then since Chronicles of Crime, we've got obviously Paranormal Detectives, and Kingdom Rush, and now Time of Legends Destinies.
And they're all. This is the only one I've not played. Done Kingdom Rush. Not my kind of game at all. Thought it was excellent. And the Time of Destinies one as well was really interesting. Although it was terrible, but it was really interesting. yeah, that was awful. But yeah, it was really fascinating. My only slight criticism of that one is I worry about the replayability of it, because it's scenario based and story based as well. So you play like scenario 1, and once you've worked out what's going on, I can't see how you can play it again. It's a bit like an escape room type thing. But I guess you could levy the same complaint at Chronicles of Crime. Really, although
time stories and those type of things.
Yeah. With Chronicles of Crime, I do feel like there's so much going on in most of them that if you give it a year, the chances are when you go back to it, you remember hardly anything. So, but yeah, it sounds good, and I'd really like to play it as well.
Cool.
So, my number 3. If you're regular viewers, you may be, I don't know. You may remember I'm a big fan of cash-based kind of, I guess, push-a-luck type games again, like Chinatown made my list one year. Ponzi Scheme, I'm pretty sure made it one year as well. Both still rate very highly on my own personal ranking. And this year I got another game which is a similar ilk. It's definitely different enough, and I would argue that it's like nothing else in my collection. In fact, possibly like nothing else on the shelves. And it's actually quite a difficult game to get hold of. I think it was a Kickstarter, and it's had a very limited kind of release beyond that. And it is this little one here called QE, which stands for quantitative easing, apparently. So when governments get in debt, They just make more money. That's the idea behind it. Rather, unlike Joe Average, when we get in debt, we have to get money and pay that off. Whereas governments just go, hey, we just generate another billion. And that's kind of the idea behind this game. So in this, it's an auction game. When you're the auctioneer, I guess, you set the price of what you're prepared to pay, and then everybody else will do a secret bid of how much they're prepared to pay for it. And obviously you can go under that, in which case you're definitely not winning it. You can do a scoreable 0 bid each round, or you can go above that. And that's it. And you just go around trying to kind of set collection, trying to get points from these things that you're bidding on. And that's basically all it is. But where it gets fascinating is you don't have any physical money at all. You can basically put whatever amount you want at all, any amount at all, and the person who bids the most at the end of the game is eliminated from the equation. So obviously you need to bear that in mind. But you know, the first game I played of it, someone started the bid on 1,000. Okay, at the end of the game, the person that was eliminated had spent 1.2 billion. they go up rapidly, kind of thing. And the last game of this I played, the starting bid started on 1 billion. And it kind of meant you sort of think, oh, well, that person's eliminated. We'll just come under that. And then it escalates because it's like, okay, now he's won 2 things. We need to start getting some, otherwise there's going to be like a dead heat between all of us. So then you go, well, I know he spent at least 11 billion. So I know I've got some wiggle room now. I'll put 5 billion on this, and then you win something, and then someone else is going, all right, well, and then that just kind of escalates the game, and it just gets crazy. You took huge amounts of money, but it's all kind of meaningless, I suppose, really. But it's just like nothing else I've played. It's fascinating and hilarious. And when you see these bids, because the auctioneer, when he gets the bids, he doesn't reveal them. He just say, this person's won, that's it, and writes on the back what the value was. So nobody gets to see what people have bid. And you think, you know, I've put 5 times what that initial bid was, and I didn't win. What the hell has he bid there? My God, that is huge. And then, but you know in your head now, okay, so if I bid 30 million for that and he won that means I've got at least this amount of wiggle room to put in the next one when it comes around. Really interesting game. Very good. Like it a lot. I highly recommend a play of it, if nothing else, because you won't have played anything like it.
And I haven't.
But you will. I guarantee it. We'll play it at HandyCon, if nothing else.
But I know it's got some decent reviews. I mean, Tom Vassell absolutely loves it.
Oh, it's great. Really, really good. But I like the fact everyone comes in with this game, the first bid, I'm going to go X many million or billion, whatever, just to kick things off, that kind of thing, and just see where it goes, because it's crazy. And that first bid, you sort of think, well, that's me out. You almost certainly won't be, because things just happen in the game to self-correct. Really interesting, and I don't know how it works, but it works.
That was your number 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so my number 3 is an older game now, apparently. Australia.
Ooh, I really want to play this one as well.
This is one of my favourite designers, Martin Wallace, and it's actually a really fascinating game. I had it on the shelf to play for a while, never got around to it, but I was always looking forward to trying it, and then finally got to play it this year. So it's been like a year or 2 before that.
It's probably a couple of years now, yeah. 2018, there you go.
Yeah, Stronghold Games was the publisher, and an Australian company. Schmill Games.
I mean, it is a weird combination. It's like train route building plus Cthulhu.
Yeah. And I was wondering how this was going to turn out. I mean, the resources and everything, components and stuff is great.
I've just seen that. Custom. Yeah. Nice.
And when we got through a couple of games, it was like, wow, this is interesting. It's a action selection. You just choose an action, and you got tons of cubes to play your actions. So you don't need to reset that often. But every time you do the same action again, it costs more gold. And resources are really hard to come by once the initial spread of resources is gone. And then you've got Cthulhu waiting in the wings and all these minions going on. And it's kind of like Glenmore and Red November, those things where the further behind you are, the more actions you can do. And it's really interesting watching Cthulhu move along the track with you, and you're getting towards that end sequence where it's like, well, he's going to be reaching the ends, and we need to finish off what we're doing.
Does he automatically move up, does he? Or...
Yeah, if he's at the back, he then moves to the next space, and it just shuffles along like that. And every second space is there an event card for him. Okay. And they generally, most of the time, are bad for us.
It's a weird combination, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't think it would work. You got the Australian outback with building trains and mining farms and all these sort of things, and then you go around recruiting all these like military vehicles, tanks, airships, that sort of thing. And then combat is really interesting as well. When you go into a fight with something, you flip over a card, and then if you have those symbols on there, you do damage, and they do damage back to you if their symbol is triggered, depending on what you're fighting. So it's kind of prescribed because you know certain things are good against other things.
Okay.
But like, for example, airships are not good against temples, but they're good against certain other things.
So what are you fighting in it? Cthulhu's minions?
Yeah,
or...
you got all the standard Cthulhu tropes. You know, the Darkspawn and all the stuff.
Deep ones,
all those
Star
things.
Spawns.
Yeah, and they move around the board, and the way they move as well is once they trigger, they will move towards the farms, start destroying farms and things like that. You lose a lot of points at the end of the game if your industry is completely destroyed.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. I really enjoyed it a lot. It was really interesting to play, and even everyone at the table we played with as well were always like, "Oh, wow, we need to play that again. That was really good." And Martin Wallace, man, guy's a genius. He's made some really good games. Brass is one of my favorites.
He's made some, he made Runebound. Like, what?
Yeah.
Runebound? Yeah, he's done a lot of cool games.
After playing this, I had another game on the shelf that was made by him that I've been wanting, was Via Nebula.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, because of this was so good, I then had to go learn Via Nebula and get that to the table as well, because it was, and that was good as well. Not as good as this, but it was really good. And he's got another one coming out soon as well. I can't remember what it's called.
The guy's prolific. He really is.
Yes. But yeah, Australia.
See, this is why I tell you. Put them, just, how difficult is it, honestly?
But yeah, that's my number 3.
Okay, my number 2, just make sure I got it right. Filler game, which is surprising, but one year I put Biblios on mine. It was hands down my favourite filler at the time, and it may have even been dethroned now, I don't know. But I've had a huge amount of fun and success with this game as well. And I remember when we first played it, the sheer volume of information you get, the game is simple as anything, but the sheer volume of information you get initially is mind-blowing. You sit there just going, oh my god, I don't know what to do. There's just a huge amount going on. And if I can get out my bag,
Santa.
Santa, it's this little one. I don't actually know when it came out.
Wow, you really like this a lot, don't you?
I love this game. 2018 again, so another year ago, is this Fantasy Realms by WizKids. It's I guess you're trying to make the best hand possible. Everyone gets dealt 7 cards to begin with, and there's something like 10 different suits, and they've got a power, like strength number, which you're trying to get the highest strength possible with the combinations. But all of the cards have text on them, so they'll have a name, and it will say something like gets plus 30 if with this card, or blanks another card, which means, you know, the other card is removed, or another suit is removed unless you have this, that kind of thing. And they all kind of gel together. And then on your turn, you draw a card from the top of the deck, or from the discard pile, add it to your hand, and then discard another one. So you constantly just keep 7 cards in your hand. And the game ends when there's 10 cards in the discard pile. And that's it. And it's really interesting. I mean, I've played it with a wide range of people, and everyone's found it fascinating. I played it with Tony Bourdelle and Vitel Lacerda the other day. And Tony loved it. It was like, do you think Games Law have got it in stock? But it's just really interesting because it's such an easy game to play in terms of you draw a card, ditch a card. That's it. That's the rule. But there's so many intermingling mechanisms in there, and kind of complementary abilities, or negatively complementary ones as well, if that makes sense, you know what I mean. It's just fascinating. A huge amount going on. I think it's excellent. What a great filler. It's a 10-15 minute game, and it's not your typical, this is really light, like Point Salad I thought was fine, you know, but it's really quite a light game. You're just drawing cards from these, basically add them to your tableau as vegetables, or as point scoring in that, and you just take it from this deck. It's a little bit kind of draft like almost. But there's nowhere near as much thought that goes into what you're taking in points that there is in this. Similar kind of length, but man, this one really gels with me. And I do like the fantasy element as well. I really do. And you can really gamble as well, because there are some cards which you're trying to get like runs or specific cards, and they're huge point scorers. And I've seen people get those. I mean, we went through the deck and we tried to engineer the best possible hand just by like manually going through it, going, okay, this card, this card, this card. And I've seen someone get a score that was only about 20 less than that, actually, like in a game. And it was just like she absolutely crucified all of us. But it's just awesome. Really, really like it. Big fan of this one. And it's really small, fit in all bag as well. So it's like one of those that will pretty much always travel with me.
I would highly recommend to get the app so you can do the scoring.
Oh, hell yeah. I haven't used the score pad, but I do have the score pad in here. So it's that's the score pad there. If you can, hopefully you can see it okay. There's a lot of information on that. Each one going down, like each one of these columns is a player, and each one of these is the card that it does and how it intermingles with each. Phew. There's a lot going on. But there's an app. You just go this card, this card, this card. And it works out the score and everything. It's a lot. It was advertised on the box as well, and rightly so. But yeah, that's my number 2 of the year for me.
Yeah, it's a good game. I mean, we played this at what was the one?
Tabletop Live, I think.
Yeah, Tabletop International Tabletop Day.
No, it might have been that. Yeah,
something like that. And I remember Mike showing it to us, and I was like, "That's really interesting." The fact that your hand never goes more than 7 cards, never goes under, never goes over, and if everyone just draws from the top of the deck, the game will be over in 10 turns.
Yep.
So you got to look at that as well. Like, you can draw from the discard pile, which replaces and keeps the discard pile. So if there's 9 cards in the discard pile, and you know you're going to draw from the top, that's the end of the game.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and it's also you thinking about what you want to ditch down, and if you know. I just saw Martin pick up 2 army cards. So he's obviously got the king or whatever, the queen that benefits from army. And
there's a huge amount of cards that benefit from most cards, really.
So you kind of think about that, and then you go, well, I've got this army card that I don't want, but I know if I ditch this down there, he's going to take it up and it's going to benefit him.
Or I've got the Beastmaster, and I've only got 1 beast at the moment. I'll collect some beasts because it negates all the negative and gives me benefits. And you're like, where are all the beasts? And some other bastards collecting all the beasts because they've got something else that generates that, and so you've missed out on them in that regard. And there's so many cool instances in there. I think it's great.
Now, that strangely enough is probably some people would say is a negative, because if you look at it, your whole game can be ruined by what you've got and what you've been trying to collect. But the game takes 15 minutes.
Yeah,
so you can just play it straight away afterwards again and go for a different
Sure,
run.
if you want to consider that a negative.
Well,
I personally don't. I mean, you've gambled and you're called on your gamble, basically.
But yeah, it's good. It's a good solid game.
I really like it.
This is not on the list, but another game that reminded me, only because of the fantasy element, and it's a small card game, filler game, that I learned for the first time this year, which I thought was really good, was Dungeon Mayhem. Have you played that?
Mm-mm.
I'm trying to think who's. It's set in the the Baldur's Gate. Yeah, Molo and Tony have both got a copy, and they showed it to me.
I might tell them to bring it tonight then.
And it was just a lot of fun. It's really simple. You play one of the characters on your turn. You play a card, and that'll tell you how many cards, what you can do with it. Whether or not you're going to be attacking or drawing cards or defending or whatever the case would be. And it's just last man standing. It's just really simple, really fun. Each character plays completely differently. The last time I played the expansion, I played Minsk and Boo, which was so much fun. They were really crazy, chaotic, swapping cards with people and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that as well. So have a look at that. I'll put a picture here if you want to look at it. That's from an unusual company as well. It's just that was WizKids, and I think this might be from WizKids as well. Dungeon Mayhem.
WizKids did that Galactic Empires game as well.
Oh really? I thought it was Gale Force 9.
Now you've said that. I don't know. I think it was WizKids, but maybe not. I don't know.
So that's your number 2, right?
It was, yeah.
My number 2, I don't actually have the game here. Martin's got it, but I forgot to ask him to bring it. And it wasn't on his top 5, it was in his top 10. So can you guess it?
No.
It's Vindication.
Oh. I did wonder whether you would put it on the list, actually.
I love Vindication. I think it's really, really good. There's a couple of things that just blew my mind in that game. One was the end sequence, how the ending triggers. I love how the ending triggers. It's just a small minor thing.
It's WizKids.
It is a WizKids. It's just a small minor thing. Like as you go along the score track, you unlock new end mechanics, and it means
that's really clever.
Yeah, it's such a small thing, but it's so fun and interesting because you go like, oh, we've reached 30 points, new end mechanic. Oh, that might trigger next turn now, or okay, cool, that's another way I can score some more points, or that sort of thing. I really like that. I like the combinations it works. I like games where sometimes it's not prescribed what you're going to do, but when you get your opening hand or you got your special, like in this case, your assistants or whatever they're called, the little magic,
Yeah.
you know.
I think they're assistant. I don't know. I can't remember what the terminology is now.
Yeah, and you look at those and you go, right, this one does this specific thing, so I can benefit heavily from that, so I'm probably going to try and do this type of thing. And then you walk around this really abstract city, you know, picking up cards, doing these combination things, growing your character.
It's an interesting game as well because they could have easily made it, I guess, less Euro, more kind of thematic by like changing that map up a bit and actually having it more like a room bound type world that you're traveling on, that kind of thing. But it's literally like hexes and you move between the edges, the triangles
sort of
or whatever,
abstract
don't you?
streets.
So you're kind of moving on those points. I think your base movement is 2 until you start increasing that.
Yeah, you get horses and then like thematically you get a horse and then you get some sort of mythical mount like a griffin or whatever, which it's really cool. And there's quite a lot of extra content for it as well.
There is a shitload of extra content.
Just the base game alone gives you certain basic buildings and stuff like that, and then you swap some of those out for some new buildings, and you got different. And there's 5 different types of things you can go after. You got like military things where you're attacking stuff, sciencey things, and sort of culture-y things. It's kind of like very minuscule, like kind of civ building type thing because you're not really building anything. You're taking control of buildings and gaining technologies and all this sort of stuff. But it all combines into this interesting, puzzly.
Well, when you take the buildings, it's been a little while now. I'm trying to remember. When you take the buildings, obviously they're worth points to you. You kind of add your influence cube to it, but you've only got a finite amount of those as well. And before you have to start unlocking some like locked ones, so you put that on. But once you've got a building, and other people use it, don't you get a benefit from it as well? So that's interesting as well. But they can also take it off you.
Yeah. And the way you spend your actions or your cubes and stuff is kind of like Terra Mystica, where you have that little magic pot where you got to move things from the crap store to the medium store to the best store.
They're kind of locked in here. But they're basically going from this like central pool to be used, don't they? But they're like locked in here. You have to do specific things to kind of push them into kind of they're almost like a reserve, I guess.
Yes, and you've got to think about that really carefully because if you just ignore it, you can't do any actions. You're basically just moving around, exploring, and doing very basic stuff. You can obviously spend your action just to plop one across, but that's very inefficient. You want to go around and maximize the potential of what you can do on your turn and grow your character, level him up so he gets that horse, he gets that griffin, he becomes vindicated and really cool and has all these powers, and it's a cool game. I really like it a lot. I think we did the review, which you can find in the up here, and I think I might have given it a 9 out of 10. I think.
I don't even remember reviewing it.
It was right early in the
Clearly
beginning of the year, and I just really enjoyed it. It's so good. I know they're probably overproduced because you've got a lot of miniatures and stuff with the game, which is not, I don't think, needed. I mean, I'm the miniature guy, and I don't think any of the miniatures are needed.
Yeah, the box could have been almost half the size, really.
Yeah. And this is their first game, Orange Nebula, the company who made it. First design game and everything. And
it's the single reason I've just backed their latest Kickstarter as well, which I can't remember what it's called now, a space one, but...
Is it a new game?
Yeah, the Kickstarter ended 2 or 3 days ago.
Oh, right.
And it was a single reason I did it. It's like, I loved Vindication, and I actually didn't back Vindication as well. I bought it, someone else had basically got it and decided they didn't want it. And I bought it based on the strength of reviews that I'd seen. I thought, this sounds awesome, and I do really like it. And so this time I thought, I'm not going to run the risk of missing out. I'm going to get it now.
And you backed the expansion as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I got the expansion, yeah.
Because there was a separate Kickstarter for the expansions or something.
Again, it's one of those that's probably unnecessary because there is so much going on in just the base box, and you can kind of mix and match stuff, and you can change it quite dramatically as well. Like in the central thing, you can have like a big creature that is causing chaos and things like that, or you can just do the very basic one where you're kind of just doing your own thing really, and kind of influencing people and meeting people as you go, and doing whatever you want to do really, and just trying to make amends for your past wrongs, essentially.
I think it's a super fun game. I mean, if you're looking for a big thematic crawling, like story, this is not it. I don't think so.
But it's so close to that. That's what that is. It's a weird one because it's almost really thematic, but it's not. It's like they kind of just held off and when they could have, given a backstory of why everyone got thrown overboard, for example, the kind of bad stuff that you did and that kind of. But they didn't do that. They just they just left it a very broad. You're a scumbag. this has happened, you wake up here, that kind of thing. And that's pretty much all they've done.
And even the board itself is very, like, you've got all the stuff around the side of the board.
Hexagonal board,
But, but that's all mechanically based rather than thematically based. It's not a dungeon crawl type game or anything like that. It's just, this is how the functional, that's the word I'm looking for. It's functional board rather than a thematic board, if that makes any sense.
I do like the board as well, because you've got your cubes are in different pools. It's a little bit like Terraforming Mars in instances, where your cube can be any one of the different resources that are around. And you've got an amount, and I can't remember how many, possibly only 3 basic resources, and 2 of these basic becomes one of the stronger ones, depending on which one it is. So if you've got, say, like there and there, these 2 become this one, these 2 become this one, and these 2 become this one, and you can convert them at any point in your turn as well. And it's all around the outside of the board as well, so none of that clutter is actually on your player board.
That's really nice. That's just a really good game. I mean, check out the video if you haven't seen it yet, or
you need to play that again. Actually, it's really solid,
and some of the expansions added in as well. So it's super cool. I really enjoy it. Love it. Good.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so should we do number 1s or our disappointment / dud before we get to our number 1s?
For funsies, let's do the disappointment.
Okay. I found this quite hard this year, actually. Again, I had to make a bit of a short list. And I'm still not 100% sure that the one I've chosen is my biggest disappointment. I'm not going to call it a dud, because I think that's the wrong terminology. I will say disappointment, but it really didn't gel with me. But I'm going to talk about a couple that almost made it. One of them, this will please Martin Paul if he watches, was Robin Hood. I really didn't like. I found it overraw, overcomplicated. I don't think it worked in terms, because I don't think it decided what it wanted to be. It would have been okay if it was a competitive game, and it might have been okay if it was a cooperative game, but it tried to do both, and it didn't work like that. And there were so many, like, almost like caveat type rules on there going. It didn't gel with me at all.
On the flip side, I liked
it. Did you?
Yeah, I liked it.
I put Howl Hydra on here. I'm a big fan of, like, your a hidden role, hidden traitor type games, but that one, I felt that it was impossible to win as the kind of heroes, and as a consequence, the villain side was almost superfluous. I mean, it was fun. I got to play the traitor, or I can't know if there was multiples now. I got to play the traitor role, and so I could just outright lie to people's faces, and it's always fun doing that. But the game itself, I felt that even if I wasn't there, they would not have won. It was impossible. That was my impression. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If you've played it and won, well, good on you. One that I came very close to putting on. However, I didn't think I was going to like it anyway, and that was because it was a retheme of a retheme. Was Dune. This one, hair's whisker away, shall we say. I really strongly disliked Rex, which was the Fantasy Flight retheme of the original Dune. And to the point where I remember distinctly, we played the game and the other players went home, and Jason and I sat here for probably 2 hours dissecting all the issues that we had with it. And I don't think we've ever done that with a game before. We sat here for ages talking about the issues that were there.
Don't know what you're talking about. I loved it, man.
You really did.
No, I did. I hated it.
and so I went into Dune expecting I wasn't going to like it, and I think I preferred it to Rex, but I still didn't like it. For some of the same reasons, and also I think it looks ugly, and I mean, I don't know the story behind Dune at all, but how people can call it thematic, I will never know. I mean, I genuinely have, I mean, when I played Battlestar Galactica, I hadn't seen any of Battlestar Galactica, but I played it and was like, I know what's going on in the show, the broad strokes of what's going on in the show. I played Dune, don't know what's going on in Dune, and had no idea what any of the story is. None at all. I don't even know what spice is. Is it a drug? Is it a mineral? Is it their money? I have no idea. Is it metal? God knows. No idea. I have no idea what's going on. But that was close. But as I said, I didn't expect to like it anyway. So the actual one I did pick, and I feel a bit bad, but I'm coming to the conclusion that I don't think this design is for me. And the one I didn't gel with really at all was CO2 Second Chance, whatever it's called, which is a Lacerda game. I don't think I've played any of his games that I thought I love this. I don't know. He's obviously a very accomplished designer. He knows what he's doing, and some people absolutely love his stuff. But for me, I don't think they're for me. I think he perhaps overcomplicates them for me to the point where I feel like I'm working and not actually playing and enjoying a game. And I felt like CO2 was very much like that again. It felt so hard to actually achieve anything. It was brutally punishing and really complicated with it as well, to the point where it absolutely wasn't for me, that one at all. And it's got a weird aesthetic to it as well. It looks, it's kind of like oil colours and stuff. I know some people really like it, but it's like, what is it trying to be? I don't even know. It's really bizarre. Anyway, that was mine, definitely. Well, not definitely, as I said, I had a short list, but it was tricky.
That's interesting. But I mean, I had to browse through my playlist, see what games. I do get to play some dross throughout the year.
I mean, on that note, I will say I've played worse games than that easily this year, than all of those, because I've played some like family weight games. For example, my sister bought my son Monopoly Fortnite, and that is definitely worse than those games. Although it was better than regular Monopoly, but I didn't go into it expecting anything from it. I knew it was going to be bad. It's a high street game, so therefore I didn't have any expectations for it. And it's very rare that a high street game will actually appeal to me at all. So I'm not saying that they are the cream of the crap. There are better games out there.
Cream of the crap.
Sorry, there are worse games out there than I've played. But just for me, they were like a disappointment to me.
It's interesting. I think last year and the year before, there was easily one particular game. I mean, we played one of Molo's games last year, the truck racing thing.
Oh god, that was dreadful.
I can't remember what that was called.
No.
I think I put that down as my one for last year.
That was truly awful.
This year, I played a couple of games. A lot of them were Kickstarter previews where I thought, this is just garbage, But what can you do? These games are out there. But there's one particular game that I picked for this year's disappointment dud, if you like, and it has a couple of reasons why I dislike this game quite a bit. It's called Cywars. Now, this was a Kickstarter preview I did earlier the year, but it's actually funded and delivered already to backers, so I feel like I can use this, See,
it's an interesting position you're in as well, because you're playing these Kickstarter previews, and if you really dislike a game, you almost feel obligated to warn people off. Yeah. But then the game doesn't fund, and you're responsible for that game not funding, and so it's a really horrible situation to be in.
The way I look at it, because I don't do reviews as such when I do Kickstarter previews, because
purely factual.
Yeah, because the fact is the game might completely change by the time it comes out, and then when people watch that video, they pick apart of what I've said when it might have changed throughout the time. So I just show what I've got on the table in front of me and how it plays, and you can decide for yourself. And this is one of those cases that if I was given a review, I would have said, "Don't back this. This is horseshit." And this was basically kind of a collectible card game a la Magic. And why I say a la Magic, because to me, and I don't know any information of how this was designed, but to me, this was someone played Magic and went, "I can do this better. I'm going to make this game."
No, you can't.
Yeah. And they took all the negatives of Magic. So Mana Flood, Mana Screw, playing a 5-color mana deck, that sort of thing, into their game, and took out all the cool shit of Magic and left you with that. And then made it as what's good is that it comes with holographic art. And it's just like, I played this game and I thought, this is just horseshit. It's like so
both
bad.
of us have a Magic background as well, don't we?
Yeah.
So that is, if you're going to do a game like that, we're going to measure it up against Magic.
Exactly. And I felt like why? Why does this need to be made? It's just like, Magic is there for a reason. And whether you like Magic the Gathering or not, it is the top game of that genre for a reason.
Well, most people's problem with Magic is the distribution of it, not the game itself.
Exactly, yeah.
It's the fact that it's a randomised booster or deck, and quite expensive for what you get as well.
Exactly.
If that was in a Dominion-style box, or Summon Wars, that kind of thing, you had decks in there like that, I reckon it would be huge. But it's just the distribution that people don't like. And
I mean, I'm not actually 100% sure how they're distributing this game either. I remember being a starter box, and then you can buy like additional boosters or something, or additional expansion boxes, or something like that. But it basically, it drills down to, you just draw a certain amount of cards on your turn, you play a resource, which is like some sort of, there's 5 resources in the game.
basically.
Yeah, and they like DNA strands and that sort of thing. And then you play out a creature, and then you have to basically attack the other person's base. It's literally Magic the Gathering, but crap. And they took everything that Magic suffers from, like when you're playing a 5-color deck and you draw out too much blue and you're not getting any red to play the cards in your hand. So you just sit there turn after turn going, I got nothing to do. I got nothing to do.
I pass.
Yeah.
I pass.
There's very little search cards. There's very little card draw. Most of it is you need these 5 mana resources to bring out a creature, which can have equipment.
But are all creatures 5 colours as well?
Yeah, most of them are 3 to 5.
Okay.
And then they have a really overcomplicated attack combat system where basically you can meld things together, you can add in things, and it was just so overwrought and overcomplicated that I just didn't have any fun playing it.
Interesting
whatsoever.
to see the kind of reception to that game as well. What was it called?
Psy Wars. PSI Wars. I'll put a picture
PSI,
of
not
yeah.
PSY.
And I just didn't enjoy the game at all. And the thing is, like Tom Bussell always goes on about, people should stop making chess variants. I think people should stop making Magic variants. Just forget about it. You're never going to hit the game that Magic has got. Just forget about it. Make a new game. I mean, Versus is a good example. When Versus came out, that was completely different to Magic, but a similar system. You know, buy boosters, buy a deck, play 2-player, head-to-head, for money and all that sort of stuff.
Wow. It's got an 8.33 average on the... Oh, out of 3
4.
votes. 3 votes, 4 comments. Fair enough.
But yeah, that was my dud for the year. I'm sorry, you know, I hate to ramble on a game like that, but that game rubbed me up so badly. When I finished the preview I gave it away on a prize or something. I had no interest in the game whatsoever, and I never want to play it again. It's just...
Yeah, it's one I'll probably avoid, to be honest. I'd rather just play Magic again.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, the aesthetic wasn't that great. The holographic cards is just, there's nothing for me.
I used to hate foils and stuff like that back then anyway. Yeah, so I could do without that. Just give me the cards. As simple as that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's enough of a rant. Let's go into something positive.
I'm negative. So, my game of the year. A little bit surprised by myself, honestly, with this one, because it wasn't... It's nothing complicated or deep or heavy like some of these games. I mean, none of them are that deep, I suppose. Perhaps Maracaibo, but this one I found hugely accessible and hugely successful with it, and it has garnered quite a lot of buzz this year. But I don't think I've ever had a game of it fall flat. I've never been hugely successful with it, but we've done okay. And it's a little one that you can actually play with probably anyone. And it's just one. I mean, honestly, I don't know what to say about it. It's, I guess, a party game, although, yeah, I suppose it's a party game, really. We'll play up to, it says 7, but technically you could play it with 8 because you could just pass the whiteboard around for the one that's not actually writing on them.
I mean, I think we played this up to 10 already.
We played it a lot in the pub, yeah, like sharing a pen or whatever, and yeah. But you can play it like that as well. And in fact, in that one, we didn't even bother with scoring. We just kept drawing off the deck and just carry on going. You know?
Yeah.
But it's, as I say, it's not like the others, and it's not like a deep strategic game in any way, shape or form. But there's something about it that it's just massively accessible and fun. And some of the obscure clues people, I mean, we've had some instances. I mean, one has gone down in our group as infamy now, where
was that Simon?
Yeah, just genius. So the the name, I don't know if you know Just One, hopefully you do, but basically one person draws a card, chooses a number 1 to 5 on this card, and it will get a randomized word for them essentially, but they don't know what it is. Everybody else sees that word. They have to write a 1-word clue that conveys that word to them, and then everyone compares their clues with each other, and if anyone's duplicated, they're eliminated. So you're trying to generally be a little bit obscure with what you put down. But obviously, everyone thinks that. I think, oh yeah, but maybe I'll do the obvious one this time, because then someone else definitely won't do it, and then or you end up with like loads of random obscure stuff, or you end up everyone's gone the same thing. You've got one clue to go by, and you have no idea what it is. You get that situation. But we had one instance where the clue word was diamond, and our friend Molo, who you probably would have seen if you watched the channel, he's an eclectic guy, and he wrote down Simon because Simon Diamond apparently is a wrestler from Christ knows when, some obscure offshoot, like not mainstream WWE, WWF, whatever it would have been back then. Some like one of the obscure backwater ones. And he wrote that because I think it was me that was taking the clue, because I watched wrestling. And so he thought I'd knew it. But I mean, literally, even the people that are writing the clues looking Simon, and it's now infamous to the point now where if Diamond comes up again, you'll have to be careful that everybody doesn't write Simon, because it's now infamous in our group, and it was hilarious.
Yes.
Like, and it caused so much hilarity, and so many of those. I remember Tube being one of them, and there were certain clues on that one. And when we had one down the pub, Sock was one. It had some really racy ones. Just hilarious. I can't believe they've not expanded it. Maybe different themes, or I genuinely can't believe they've not done an After Dark one like they did with Codenames. Because I mean, it seems custom built for it almost. Some of the clues that you get given anyway are like the answers you get are really racy. So I think it's fantastic.
I can't believe that this is the first time this game's been made. No. It's such a basic...
it's such a simple idea. It's one of those that you kick yourself thinking, why didn't I think of that? It's so easy.
I mean, this is something I would have thought we would have played in the classroom, you know, after exams or something like that. You're just like, oh, let's write a name. And it's so fun. It really is. I mean, the scoring thing is kind of... You know,
it's moot. Yeah, it's a little bit like Spyfall. Yeah, when you play I mean, nobody plays by the rules in the book where you've got the scoring mechanism. Yeah. Screw that. It's just about the game. It's
just about interacting with the people around you and having a laugh. Yeah. We play this almost every game night.
Pretty much. Yeah. Well, because it plays between 3 to 7, well, 3 to 8, as I said. Yeah. 3 to 7 on the box.
And you can play this with anyone. You know, family members, wives, partners, that sort of thing. It all works. It's so much fun.
There you go, that's mine.
Alright, so my number one is, of course, well, 2 years ago they had my number one then, which was Mythic Battles. Now it's passed on to Conan, or Monolith rather. This is my number one for this year.
Oh my god, the bottoms.
Joan of Arc, Time of Legends from Mythic Games. I played this for the first time at Aircon this year. They did a demo there for me and I absolutely loved it. I had to get a copy. I did. I got into work with them as well, as we mentioned earlier in the beginning of the video. I did the Super Fantasy Brawl figures during the Kickstarter run, and then I got a copy of this, and and
there's overlap as well with the new one
from Lucky Duck. Yeah, it uses the same world, but even the same figure components and stuff like that. This is everything in terms of games that I like. It has a ton of miniatures and top quality 15mm scale.
I don't think a ton does it justice. I mean, that tiny miniatures, and Jason has enough probably to go floor to ceiling. It is ridiculous how much stuff there is for this.
And the scale is massive. I mean, you've got like huge dragons. What's with that cockatrice over there? This is a cockatrice. This is a giant chicken. And look at the size of it. The little people, they go like this
15mm figure. Right?
Yeah. It's
really, I mean, that's one of the things that made it stand out, wasn't it? That not just the large monsters, but the buildings as well. Yeah. It's very rare that you'll get a miniature game that has structures come with it, and because they dropped the scale down, you got some buildings in there.
Stuff,
the building, it's like, it really makes the board pop. You know, when you've got these like actual physical structures there,
and you got a whole castle wall and everything. But I mean, besides all the components, mechanically, I really like it as well. It's I think Memoir 44 in terms of you got the hex-based map, and
I think that's a fair comparison.
You know, you got all the miniatures on the board and you're rolling dice to resolve combat and stuff like that. But it has a layer of depth on top of that, where you have to use your cubes and resources to activate areas to make them move around. You've got cards. You've even got the option to play where you can interact with the NPCs. So there's people around the board, and you go onto the board and talk to them and have a conversation with them.
And you have like different routes for that conversation as well, don't you?
And the outcome can be completely different depending on the route you choose. It has all of that. It has also the ability where you can forego the scenarios and all the NPCs and stuff and just have a straight a la Warhammer style battle where you build up a points tally of say 1,000 points and you build up a faction and you just have a straight out battle, which is cool because obviously that's a part of my background that I like, the Warhammer style gaming. I mean, thematically, it's really cool. You got the 100 Years War element, so it's historically accurate there. But then it also has the fantasy element, as we showed with the cockatrice, and you got massive dragons,
That dragon
werewolves.
is ludicrous. I mean, it is like the wingspan is like this kind of size. I mean, for a 15-minute film, that is no wonder people ran away. Holy crap!
Yeah, it's great. I think it's a fantastic game.
How does it compare to Mythic Battles?
Well, mechanically,
for you and me.
It will still slot in under Mythic Battle. Mythic Battles is still my number one, mainly because of the theme, Greek theme over the French 100 Years War type thing is more interesting to me. But also, mechanically, I quite like that one better. But that doesn't make this worse. It just
I was kind of curious to see whether it like usurped it almost.
No.
I think for me, I probably prefer Joan of Arc slightly. I think it's slightly more my thing. Although I can, Mythic Battles does some things that are really cool. I just think that's possibly a bit more my thing. Still not in my wheelhouse, which is why neither of them made my list.
Yeah. Well, it's my type of...
Very much, yeah.
I think the downside to them is obviously they're 2-player games, so they're very restrictive player count. I mean, you can play more, but I mean, I've played Mythic Battles at 4-player. I've played Joan of Arc at 3-player. But essentially, you're going to play most of them.
Rebellion and Warring, though. You can play 2 to 4, really, they're 2.
But most of the time, you're going to play 2-player with it, so it's obviously as a restricted player. It's quite a large, like for both of them, it was quite a large amount of setup time and explanation time if you're playing with someone who hasn't played it before. I mean, even after 3 or 4 games of Joan of Arc, I'm still not 100% sure that I know all
Doesn't
the
it
rules.
also drip feed extra like mechanisms in as you go through some of the more complicated scenarios and whatnot?
But even still...
Like the elephant in the room negative is the fact that it's like having an elephant in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, you could like part fill or maybe fully fill an entire character unit with like just that one game. It's absolutely insane. And I have to say, as I've kind of grown, if you like, I've really gone off games that give you that volume of stuff, certainly all in one go, and when you turn up, it's hugely daunting. And I dare say you'll never get to all of it. I can't see how you will.
I was watching a video the other day of someone talking about exactly this, and they were saying that Awakened Realms does, whether they did it on purpose or not, is actually a better method of where you get the base game on delivery, and then you get the expansions like 2-3 months later.
Yeah, I think it probably is better to do that as well, because I mean, how many expansion? I mean, it's like when you get those big box games as well.
Simon games.
Well, I mean, specific things like El Grande, the big box, and Alhambra, big box, and things like that. When you get the base game and 13 expansions and everything, there's so much all at once. It's overwhelming when you don't know how to play the game at all. But the chances are you'll never actually get to much beyond like 1 or 2 of those expansions. Whereas if you've got 3-6 months, a year or whatever to bed in with that base game and then get additional content, you can see how it all slots in and you just go, yeah, let's try it now.
Yeah. And sometimes the counter to that is you get all the stuff in one go and you try and add all of it right from the get-go.
And you can't do it. So unwieldy,
I mean, one of the biggest examples of that is, for me, which is one of my biggest regrets, and not because I bought the game or something, it's just that I haven't got it to the table, is The Others.
Yeah. The Others is on my list to play this year as well. I'm going to make it happen.
And that came with all the sins, all 7 sins and tons of content. And you just look at it and you go, where the hell am I going to start with this?
That was probably the last Call Me or Not game that came out that basically made you go, I've definitely got my money's worth here. I mean, you pay £80, £90, whatever, and you get like a massive box full of stuff. You think, yep, that was worthwhile. Absolutely. How they made money on any of those things, I'll never know.
Another example as well is from them is Arcadia Quest. I love Arcadia Quest, but I've not got anywhere near all the expansions and stuff. Because just playing the base game takes up so much time already to get to all the extra mini box expansions, character expansions, and stuff like that. It's just
It's
never
crazy.
gets
I
to
mean,
the
if there are
table.
additional characters in this one, they're generally easy enough to just kind of throw in. You know, if there's another race or another character or whatever, depending on what the game is, you can just go, well, we'll add it in from the beginning. It doesn't matter, you know. It's just another choice that people have. But it's when they start adding in like other boards and like other complexities and or pets or whatever it is. There's a whole rule book to go through. When you've got 4 or 5 other extra rule books to read as well, that's like mind blowing. Yeah. Really, and that would be my negative for like that. And Mythic Battles and like, I remember you telling me when you played Mythic Battles with Dave, and he'd like I'm going to be this character, and he'd go through his filing cabinet of like that's box G in the 6th like stacks, and going through. Here's his one miniature. There we go, like 20 minutes just to get a single figure out. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, that is definitely the detriment of these games. But the positive side, obviously, which is what I probably should be focusing on, is that the games are excellent to play. They're super fun. They're tactical. Yeah. They got in-depth capabilities. I mean, some of the stuff you play in, like the decisions you make in Joan of Arc, is so different from game to game. You play the same scenario, and the outcome will be completely different. Same with Mythic Battles. Mythic Games is one of the games or companies that are high on my list of when they bring something out, and next year they could have something again that this is out actually. The Kickstarter's already there. Solomon Kane. Yeah, that's another game that's on my radar, and Reichbusters for that matter. Both of them are on my radar, and I'm super looking forward to trying them. So they're a top company for me.
Yeah, they're really, really good. In fact, there's a few companies now that are really making waves. Awaken Realms, obviously.
Yep.
Great, look at that. So, I will just ask you: is there anything that you wanted to try that you didn't get to this year?
Well, there was quite a few Essen releases that I've not actually played. Like obviously Maracaibo was one, and Expedition to New Dale was another one. There was a couple other releases as well that I have not played. Tainted Grail.
Okay.
Which
nor have I. Mine hasn't turned up, so
so I haven't played that. And there's a ton of other games that I haven't played. I mean, there's so many games that get released in a year.
Oh, it's nuts. Fathom is thousands.
Yeah, I mean, I played over 500 games a year. That's more than one a day. And even still, that's not even a drop in the ocean.
I was talking. Wasn't it something like 7,000 games came out that's on average like a year, something crazy like that now. And I was talking to a friend. That's like you have to pay 20 a day or something, like over 20 a day to keep up. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
For me, I would really have liked to try The King's Dilemma. Do you remember that one?
The legacy game.
It's sort of a legacy game, yeah, where you're like a king council or something like that, and you get these. It's almost like a game of scruples, but game of scruples where this thing's happening. What do you want to do? Do you want to, help the farmers or kill that sort of thing? And it progresses like that. That sounds really fascinating. I'd just like to give that a go, but I'm a bit funny about buying a legacy game. Personally, by myself, kind of thing, because once you've done it, it's basically a waste of cardboard, kind of thing, and it's the thing holding me back from Clank Legacy as well.
I was literally just going to mention that Clank Legacy is probably the biggest thing that I really want to get to the table.
And it's not cheap either. No,
it's like $80, $85, and that's on a discount as well. But supposedly it's really good. I mean, loads of people have put it in their top 10s.
Looks great, really good, yeah. But again, it's probably one of those you find the people you want to play with and split the cost, which is what we did with Pandemic Legacy and things like that, and it definitely takes some of the sting out of it. But
yeah,
it's not cheap, is it? For like I say one and done, but it's not really one game, is it? But a one and done style game. But they are good fun. But yeah, so I would like to have tried that for sure.
Well, that is a year in retrospect, if you like, with the games we played. I think it was a pretty solid year as always, and we'll obviously try and make a dent this year into getting more games played. Maybe we should do like I think is it Rado or someone, they do like a halfway through the year they come back to games that
retrospect.
They haven't, and come back to their top 5. Maybe we should do something like that. Also, if you want to see any other top 10 lists and top 5 lists, I've got a few in mind that I might put up. Comment below. Also comment below what your favourite game of the year was, as we'd love to hear that and see what other games we might have missed.
Oh, do you know what we forgot? We forgot the your surprise game of the year. Although I suppose you technically touched on those, didn't you?
Yeah.
The original one. But yeah, we forgot that from last year. Damn it. Oh well.
Well, mine was definitely the Ferengi game. That was.
Yeah, it was good, yeah.
I mean, the Argument Simulator, the game being a really good game, is quite surprising.
I'll go with that. Do enjoy it.
Great, thank you very much for slogging through this video and seeing what we enjoyed over the year. And we'll see you guys later. See you later. Bye. Someone, yeah.
Yeah, the wives.
Right. What time is it?
About 2:30.
All right, let's go. We're almost done.
I mean, how are you not done yet? How much more could you possibly need to say?
I'm gonna keep this in.
Jesus. You can never complain about us talking too much.
Oh, we're talking about 10, 12 games yet.
12 games?
Yeah.
We walked to Tesco's, went and did some shopping, got a coffee, sat and chatted, and then walked back, and you are still not done discussing 12 games?
It's only been an hour.
We've talked about more games than 12.
We're almost done. I'm on to my last one.
Well, I guess we could go sit at the lounge.
Where's Margaret? Is she still alive?
No, she's here. She's just being very polite and quiet. Whereas I'm not so much.
He says he's keeping us in, by the way.
Huh?
He's keeping us in.
You can do that. They can hear how upset I am. 12 games!
Minimum.
This is the shit.
I mean, that would have been my normal 50 top.
Well, just be aware then, if we did a top 50, you better make yourself scarce for the day.
Weekend.
The day. Definitely weekend. That is what you would need. Ooh.